Right. So good afternoon. Welcome to this session today. NIBOSH General Certificate. The main course, as we like to say, as you all know, um, you all are my last class for today. So of course, looking forward to that as well. I mean, you're all often a good bunch, but I am kind of fighting a bit of the cough. So between classes, I had some coffee and it kind of helped. I'm actually feeling better, to be honest, right? The class I just had, I was kind of struggling to say some words, but having had the tea or the coffee, I voice doesn't seem to be that, you know, way with the cough then anyway. But it may come out, you'll see I may have a bit of a cough during the class itself anyway, right? So today's chapter 2, I mentioned to you all, PowerPoint here, in terms of chapter 2, element 2, how health and safety management system work and what they look like. This is a two-part class. Of course, I was saying you could actually get both lessons already on YouTube, but I would make two classes out of it because of past papers. That's really the only reason, right? That if we just read, we'll finish. But then the idea is not just to read. The idea is to link it back to your question anyway, right? So 2.1, this is the same from your syllabus, from the syllabus. Give an overview of the elements of a health and safety management system and the benefits of having a formal certified system. The latter piece of this is an exam question. This latter piece, they took it straight from here. They will just ask what's the benefit of a formal certified system. That question has come more than 3 times, so that makes it a bit of a trend in terms of 2.1 anyway, right? So we will try to incorporate it in our past paper by the end of the class anyway, right? The knowledge today, to me, once you're out of chapter 1, it's easier. Remember last week what we did? We took a day off. We took a day off from the textbook and we did a past paper. That past paper went to YouTube. And, I think there are a few classes like that where we actually have the time to do that. But, we would try to put them into this session itself, right? So, most of the times, we would have started just the other chapter anyway. So without any further ado, let's have a go here. So I'm going to read a bit and explain, right? Let me admit some people as they come in, right? So the role of the health and safety policy, I'll read for the first 5 minutes until everybody come in, right? And more coming in as we speak. Let me see if we could get them all in. Right. So the role of the health and safety policy, it provides focus for an organization in terms of health and safety. Right. The role of the health and safety policy, it provides focus on organization in terms of self-regulation. I'm not explaining it, I'm just reading. It demonstrates visible management commitment to health and safety. It serves as a means of continual improvement. Health and safety management system, the publication HSG 65 follows the principle of plan, do, check, and act. And that is known as a cycle, the plan, do, check, act cycle, also known as the PDCA cycle. Plan means establish what standards you want for health and safety. Do means implement the plan to achieve what you said you were going to do. Check, measure your progress with the plans and compliance standards. Act, review against objectives and standards and take appropriate action. I'll go into this a little bit more, right? But I'll read it for now. The system is normally represented. You have this in your book for those who have the book as well. This almost the same chart. The plan, do, check, act cycle. A bit famous for exam. Just take a note of that. A bit famous for exam. Questions are there, about 2-3 questions as well. Not as famous as the benefits question, the benefits of having a management system in the long run, right? The most common management system in health and safety around the world today is known as ISO 45001. The roots of that was in another management system called OSAS 18001, but OSAS has been done away with, and OSAS was replaced by ISO 45001, right? All the ISOs kind of look similar. ISO 45001, similar to ISO 14001. which is also similar to ISO 9001, right? When we say they look familiar, they look just like this. There is a plan to put them in place. There is a do, there's a check, there's an act. All the ISOs kind of look almost the same anyway, right? And this is actually a picture of, well, a diagram, but I'll blow this up in a bit for you. This is, of course, ISO 45001. If you don't know it, or I'd recommend that you print this off as a full page, a full slide, and keep it in your book. Right? I'll say that again. I recommend, and that's because of exam, that you print this off as a full page and keep it in your book. Right? It would help you with this question here, which is the benefits of having a formal certified management system anyway, right? So this is where we're going to end. These are the end slides for today, but I read them out. Let's kind of go back now and start to explain, right? So for those who came in late, we're looking at give an overview of the elements of a health and safety management system and the benefits of having a formal certified system. The latter piece of this is an exam question, right? So the question is now asked, and asking you all, right? Have you ever seen a company's health and safety policy? You have. You see them a lot. They're like all over, right? If you go to um those of us in Trinidad, if you go to Flow to pay a bill, they have it. If you go to WASA, the Water and Sewerage Authority, they have it. If you go to TNTech, they have it. If you go to GPL, well, that big guy, now of course, right? They have it. You drive up into Exxon Yard, they have it. GISB have it, SBM have it, right? So the question is, have you all seen it, right? Do you all recognize what I'm talking about, right? Some hardwares have it too, by the way. You go into a big hardware, they have it, Dan Steel, right? Bagwan Singh. I'm not quite familiar with the hardwares in Guyana, right? But like a lot of companies have, like if you enter a company and you look at the back of the receptionist, some companies have it displayed outside, right? You would see something called the health and safety policy, right? What it would have. So the next time you go TNTech, those of us in Trinidad, GPL, Guyana, the next time you go to any business, if you come to the office, in fact, right here, just watch on the wall. We have them on the wall. I know you normally don't look there, right? You come to the office, just watch to the left-hand side on the wall. You'll see it have some things on the wall. You would see something like, we are committed to providing a safe place of work. We are committed to provide PPE, provide information, instruction, supervision, safe plan, safe access, egress. Have you ever seen that anywhere that you have gone to? That you remember seeing something like that in a company? Let me know. Easy part where you let me know. Have you all seen anything like that? Like something on the wall? I went to a company this week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I went to one this week. It was back to the way the receptionist says, but they had it as health, safety, and quality. Right? So I read it. I told them I actually wanted to read it a bit. I'm doing some work for them. So I tell them I wanted to read of it, right? And so you'd have seen that. Now, if you have not seen it, like I said, keep your eyes out. The next time you go to any bill payment place now, right? Flow, Digicel, of course in Guyana. Just look on the wall, you'll see it. You see something marked health and safety policy, right? So yeah, a lot of companies have it. Now coming out of the policy is normally a one-page document, right? So if you want, you can take a note, right? So normally it's like a one-page document. I want to kind of shout some of the things I said there. I said it, but I know you were not taking it down, right? So it's like a one-page document. A lot of companies have it documented and they have it laminated on a plaque, or it's laminated and stuck in the wall like me, right? But it's a one-page document and it has some things in it like you'll find the company want to commit to. So I want to kind of shout for you. And maybe you could tell me one if your company have one, right? The HSE policy document. So some of the simple things you see on it is that the company is going to commit to having like a safe place of work. And if you want to write down one for me, we write down about 4, a safe place of work, And when we finish writing them down, I want you to tell me what do you think these things sound like? They're supposed to be safe, right? SAFE, safe place of work. Right? Most companies commit to that. Most companies commit to things like having adequate welfare. They're going to provide welfare facilities. Next time you go somewhere, just take a read of it. Right? Those of us, like I said, if you're not too familiar, I am familiar with I mean we should all be familiar, those of us who pay bills anyway. I'm familiar with where a lot of them are based on where you go to pay bills then, right? So they commit to having welfare. Some companies commit to having PPE, right? And the question I was asking is, what does these things like? What do these sound like? When the companies say we at Exxon is committed to a safe place of work, safe access, egress, welfare facilities, PPE, information given to the workers, information. Did you remember that acronym? Information, training, instruction, supervision, right? Information, training. What does these remind you of? It should remind you of something because we just finished it last 2 weeks. What do these things
Right.
sound like?
It writes, sorry, the duties of the employer.
Yeah, it sounds like the duty of the employer, right? Under Section 2 of the HSW Act. And that's what it is, because in a way, that's what the employer is committing to. Now, they mightn't have all, or they may make up some of their own, but it sounds like Section 2 then of the HSW Act anyway, right? So coming out of that one-page document, it's normally signed. If you all have a look at it, it's normally signed. You would see like a signature at the end of it is normally signed, and it's normally dated. Now, the one I saw this week, it was dated, I think 2013, and it's not supposed to be dated so long. It's supposed to be dated. Well, I mean, most company documents could be updated once in every 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but no way should one of these documents be. I mean, 2013 was like 10 years ago, right? So then that is outdated. The OSH Act of every country here and the HSW Act, what it says is that this document should be reviewed regularly. The OSH Act in Trinidad and the OSH Act in Guyana says at least once a year, right? But that's what they paid me for, and the company I was studying in, that's what they paid me for to see what needs to be improved on. So, I mean, that's like 1 point for improvement there anyway, right? It must be signed and dated. Right. So if you could identify with that, coming out of that, what I was saying is that there is normally, for those of us who know this one pager, there is normally now a tagline. There's a tagline. A lot of companies, I don't know if you know, they have like a slogan. They have like a tagline, right? They have like a mission statement, whatever you want to call it, a vision statement. What's another word we could use? But we call it a health and safety statement, right? Some people call it a slogan, right? And let me put some for you. So you may have seen some workers. The most common one, right? I'll give you three. And you can tell me if you all know any by yourself, right? Yeah, it's in the drawer, right? Yeah. The most common is safety is my first priority. Have you all seen that one around? Safety is my first priority. I just put in first here, right? But you could write it out, right? A lot of companies haven't have the one pager. They create now a slogan, a vision, a mission, a motto, whatever you want to call it, right? The most common one is safety is my first priority. You take this one down, I'll give you three. Got it? Yeah. So safety is my first priority. Have you all seen that one? And they cover all of workers. Have you all seen that one? Yeah? No? Yes? No?
Yep, on the left sleeve.
Yeah, you see them, some of them in the bank. Of course, for my folks in Guyana, Exxon have a simple mission statement, very, very simple, very, very simple, right? If anybody want, they could Google it. I can't remember it often, but I know some Guyanese have told me it before, right? Safety is my first priority. Some other famous ones are safety 24/7, right? Atlantic LNG and BP has a really nice one. So I'm leaving that one for number 3. But you may have to write it down because it's kind of long. Atlantic LNG, those of us in Guyana, a big gas plant in Trinidad, right? Natural gas, right? But they use the same one as BP, and everybody should know BP here, right? So theirs you want to say it first and then you'll write it down, right? Theirs is we, kind of long, huh? We will do the job. We will do the job. See what happened there, right? That's the thing with the zoom marker, right? We will do the job. I'll show you how to write it, right? We will do the job safely or not at all. So that's a really good motto to have. We will do the job safely and not at all. And believe it or not, those of us who know Atlantic LNG or BP, they actually adhere to that, right? We will do the job safely, at least most of the times, once it's not in the public domain, right? We'll do the job safely, but they are known to be safe, right? BP and Exxon and stuff, they are known to be safer companies, and we'll do the job safely or not at all, right? So you may be wondering, why did I give you all of this? Well, it's only when I give you this, the lesson will make sense. You'll see what I'm talking about, Justin, right? Not at all. We do the job safely or not at all. And then I'll leave one for you if you know any. Do you all know any? Anybody working in a company and maybe you want to share what's your safety slogan? I'll leave number 4 for you all. Sadranessa, yeah? Sadranessa Ben in Guyana. Floor is yours. Probably was by mistake. She raised her hand. I'm not too sure. I see any hand. Okay. Oh, no, Sadranessa have follow safety procedures. Okay, good, good, good. Anybody else? Anybody Trinidad, Guyana, if you're familiar with, a lot of companies have creative ones, but this is the most common one. Safety is my first priority. That's like the most common one, right? Safety 24/7. We do the work safely or not at all. We do the job safely. So this is basically we do the job safely, right? So the word job is missing here, right? We do the job safely or not at all. Anybody know any others? Anybody working again? Now, the reason for telling you all of this is that, yeah, go ahead.
What about excellence, respect, integrity?
That's a good one. But for safety, right, Anthony? For safety, right? For safety.
Yeah, values, your safety values.
Okay. Which company is that though?
This is for Laris. Like I was just kind of cheating a little bit, reading off their values. They have what they have here is it's our purpose and then our values, and then each one has like integrity and doing the right thing. Then they have
Okay.
safety, which is like causing no harm is always our first priority. Then the next one they have their excellence, delivering value to the customer while consistently raising performance, and it goes on, with each one. So
Excellent.
that's
Yeah, very good, very good. So anybody else? Anybody else working? Anybody else know their companies? So that's a very good one there. Those are very good commitments. All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know it, that means you're not working, right? It means you're not
Yeah.
working in safety. Right. But why I tell you this or why I did this was because well, many reasons, right? Number one, so that you understand the slide. What's something now, when I read over this slide, you see it makes sense now. The first time I read it, it would have gone over your head. But when I read it now, you see it makes sense. Let me show you what I mean, right? So seeing that you now know what a safety policy is, then if you read it now, it makes sense that the policy provides focus for the organization in terms of health and safety. You see, if you say integrity, excellence, service, right? If you say that, well, then that is your focus, right? If you say safety is my first priority, well, then that is your focus, right? Read the second point. It provides focus for the organization in terms of self-regulation. What is self-regulation? Self-regulation is where you are not waiting on anybody to tell you what to do, right? If you look at this last comment here, right? We Atlantic LNG, BP, right? We will do the job safely. We're not waiting on OSHA. We will do the work safely or not at all, right? That's self-regulation. The policy demonstrates visible management commitment. How? Because it's signed and dated by the CEO of your company. And then it serves as a means of continual improvement once you update it, how the OSHA says, which is once every year, right? So it makes a little bit more sense now. Do you know that that as a safety, because some of you are doing this to get work, right? As a safety, do you know that this could be one of your job? One of your job could be to reword or develop the safety policy of a company, right? I'll say that again. So these things are wrote down here. I hope you all wrote it down. But what you could probably do too, if and when that time comes, is just to probably Google ChatGPT or something, right? Like what a good safety policy should have in it. Life is easier for you all now. Before the pandemic, we would have had to sort of, memorize some of these things. But you can make up your own. But the cough seems to be coming back as the hotness of the tea probably kind of wore off, right? Yeah. But the safety policy of a company, right? As a safety, you are required to update it, right? You are required as a safety net. This is one of your job at the end of the year, every year, to kind of have a look at it and to see what needs to be done anyway, right? All right. So if you're okay with that, so let's like what I wanted you to get from this is that the policy is a document. Look at up here, 1-page document, right? That policy sets the tone of the company. Some people say the vision, some people say the mission. Anthony read things like excellence, integrity. Those are the mission of the company, right? Coming out of the 1-pager, you normally find like a tagline or a slogan. These are some popular ones. You all didn't seem to know any others. Safety is my first priority. And you don't have to know any others. I'm just giving it to, right? Safety 24/7. We do the job safely or not at all. If and when that time comes and you're working for a company, you can make up, just collaborate with them and you can make up a tagline. Or you can just go with the first one. Everybody kind of likes the first one. Safety is my first priority anyway, right? Nothing is wrong with taglines like those anyway, right? So moving on to the lesson. I would have to clean this slide, right? So I just wanted to understand what the policy was all about. And when we move this slide, let me show you now. The policy is actually a part of something else. If you look at the learning outcome for today, right? The policy, watch this, right? The learning outcome was really to look at management systems, give an overview of the elements of a management system. But the first part of the management system is the policy. Right? When they say here, right, management systems plan, establish standards for health and safety. What they are saying is to establish your policy. This is a bit cyclic, but if we could take plan to be the starting point, which they often say plan, do, check, act. So what they say, plan, but plan what? Plan your vision statement for your company. Plan your policy, right? So if you have I'm not too sure if you have this printed or if you have yours. If you have your book, you have this already written out. Plan is to plan your policy, right? Plan your vision statement, plan your mission statement of the company anyway, right? So plan, right? And this is what you're saying, and that you want to provide a safe place of work, you want to provide welfare, PPE, training, information, instruction, an atmosphere free of violence, do that, like anything that is part of the act, safe use of equipment, anything that's part of the act, you can actually put it as your policy, right? So once you plan it, what they say is to do it, which is to implement the plan, right? When you say provide safe place of work, that can be done with inspections. You want to take a note of this here? Inspections. How do you provide a safe place of work? But you could get inspections done, right? You could get risk assessments done. You want to write in some of these to me? I'll tell you why at the end, and I think you know why already, right? You can get risk assessments done. You can get training done. Training in first aid, training in defensive driving, right? So, we could put we could put one here, training, IOSH managing safely, NIBOSH. So when you said training, like in the overall plan, then it wouldn't really say which one, but as a year go by, you could get your training done then. First aid, CPR, right? You get your training done. What's gonna put? I was gonna put CPR and I put in CR, right? So let's put CPR, right? So you get your training done. Check means check here. Now, this is the overall idea for management systems. You start with your policy, you implement the policy, you check up on the policy for improvement, right? We have areas for improvement, and you go again then. So check-in here could mean things like an audit, right? Check-in could mean things, like a checkup on the number of accidents that you have. Those kind of things then, right? Fall under check-in. You check up to see if the training was done. Maybe things like a feedback, right? Employee feedback. How was the training? How was the whatever you got done, right? So feedback there will be part of your check-in exercise. And then acting here is actually ways for improvement. So I need to clear some of this slide, right? I'll take up the first set of notes that I made to finish off acting. If you're writing, you can go ahead and write as I do this. Acting there is actually ways for improvement. A lot of the things like lessons learned and stuff then fall under acting, right? Lessons learned, all of those things. After you check up that and you realize something that could have been improved on, those things fall under acting, right? Lessons learned fall under acting here. Reviews and stuff fall under acting here. Just put lessons here learned, right? Or lessons learned, right? Tell me if I get this a bit. Lessons learned. So this entire thing now, where you implement your policy, that entire process is what is called a management system. Think you get it a bit? The policy document doesn't exist by itself. It is an individual document, but after you say then you want to provide safe system of work, you want to provide a safe plant, safety is my first priority. Those things have to be implemented, right? So the rest of the documents that support your policy makes up what we call a management system. At least one way of saying it. There are many ways of saying that, right? All right, let me just clear something up here for you. So if you are seeing the PDCA cycle, one of the things you want to take a note of here is that the word acting is really a shortened form of another word, right? So acting is really short for action to improve. If you want to take this down, I'm going to complete this here. Acting is really short for action to improve, right? So action, short for action to improve. Tell me if I got out. You see, if it wasn't, acting and doing would have been the same thing. Acting and doing would have been the same thing, but it's not, because acting is not acting at all. Acting is really short for action to improve. Therefore, things like lessons learned fall under action to improve, and things like risk assessment falls under doing. Did you all get that? If acting was acting, then it would have been the same as doing. But it's not. Action is, acting is short for action to improve, right? So the reason for doing it like this is because this came for a past paper question. Well, I think I told you that, more than 3 times, right? So what they did now, 3 times is not generally a trend to say it's like a monthly thing then, right? So I don't think it's a monthly exam. Remember, NIBOSH have exams every month, right? But about 3 times this question came already, right? And what they had done, they gave you the words and they asked you to match them up to the PDCA cycle. You want to take a note of that? I don't think I'll come back. I'm just telling you how a past paper came now. Remember, that's what makes the class. It could come back. Like you can never tell, right? My opinion is just my opinion if it never comes back. But it didn't come for the year so far, right? So they gave you words that and you had to match it. You had about 10. You had to match the words there. You had to match the word with the PDCA cycle. So obviously policy is planning, right? Risk assessments is doing. But you had to be careful in how you read them because students who didn't understand acting and doing made some mistakes here, right? Anything that falls under review falls under action to improve, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about, what I could try to describe one, right? Tell me where you think this would fall, right? If I say something like, if I say like, trying to change my words, right? Okay, listen to this. If I say something like, listen before you answer, right? If I say like measuring noise levels, where does that fall? Measuring, you can take it on the whole thing because it's remember these things are, formatted from an exam paper, right? So measuring noise level, where do you think that falls in the PDCA cycle?
Doing.
Measuring noise level.
Check.
See how tricky it is. Measured. I'll try to see if I can help you with it. Measuring noise.
So that makes sense. I'm gonna stay here
That's
too.
something
Yeah,
to
I'm
do.
not going anywhere. I can live off
Okay.
frozen nuggets and old
So
milk.
kind of between, let me see if I can clear it up for you, right? Measuring noise levels. See that statement yourself. I think it needs to be finished though. Remember making it up on the spot, right? What the rest of you say? I mean, I heard two answers. Like what the rest of you all saying? There's about 20-something people in class, right? What were the rest of you all saying? We
I
had
would
two
say it's
answers.
check.
It says check. Right. So when I said it, what I had in mind was check. But I don't know if I needed, remember, this is not a full pass paper now, just making it up. I just remember what came for the exam. But when I said it, what I had in mind was check, right? So here the good
So-
news. Well, the good news is you all have Google. Whatever they give you, all you can just plug it into Google. What I had in mind was check, right? But what I was trying to say is listen to this, right? They could bring it in that same way. What if they say a manager, try not to sell out the word too, right? A manager was, try not to say the word, right? Manager let's see. See, if I say the word, I'm gonna sell it out. A manager was, just now. Let me admit somebody or some people on the outside, right? Let's say a manager was looking at the results of the noise measurement. Where does that fall? If it's the manager looking at, right, the results of the measuring performance, where would that fall?
Well, that would fall under checks for sure.
You sure? Okay, you sure?
I would say it'll fall in the act.
That would fall under act. So what the rest of you all say? We heard two answers. The manager looking at the results of the measuring, like whatever data you got from measuring noise, and where does that fall? We heard two answers, check and act. So we agree it's not plan and do. But it could only be one. Can only be one answer. The manager looking at the results of noise measurements.
Chance to improve. So act.
Yeah, it's act, right? So again, this one is act. But you understand, folks, you had to be a little bit careful with it, right? Remember what I said, right? The question came 3 times already, right? Measuring, looking at noise measurements. You want to write this out for me? Want to write this out for me?
Plan.
Write out this one, because remember it is a past paper. In other words, when we go further, it wouldn't have this anymore. This is what came for exam, right? So they gave you like 10 statements. Recently, I saw the question in it, like could have been late last year. They didn't give 10 marks for it though. They give like about 7 marks for it, right? And then it has come for probably more than 10 marks as well. So they give you these statements. If you understand that, measuring noise, manager looking at results of measuring performance. And then you had to line these statements up with plan, do, check, and act. Take a note of it because it's coming off in a bit, right? Tell me when you finish with this, the other part of this is something else, right? But I had to pause there a bit to let you know what came for the exam, right? It's not like I say every month kind of question, you know, like how we covered chapter 1 now, moral, legal, financial is like every month you'll get that. But this is a possible mix and match question. But the good news is, like I said too, if you read the statements carefully, you could probably get it, or you could probably feed it into Google or something and see what it says to give you a hint. Remember, it's an open book exam. So, you know, you could actually get some of that. Of course, the obvious things. Could I say another one? This is an easy one, right? Let me end with an easy one. I'm just trying to see where to fit it. Policy RE. Okay, could take off these two here because we're into statements now. Okay. Leaving, right? Okay, good. Tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so we're taking off this, taking off this. Let me just give you one more. Tell me where this one falls, right? This one should be easy enough, right? Things like setting the aim of the company. Setting, I just put setting the aims of the company. We just did this one, right? But that doesn't mean it is not a question now, right? Setting the aims of the company, setting the vision of the company, right? Where does that fall in the PDCA cycle? Plan, right? So it's not a hard question because all the answers are to be plan, do, check out, right? So this one will be plan, right? Plan. You take a computer charge on the right? Okay, plan. All right. So that was a reflection on a past paper question and not hard. But just be careful, right? Just be careful. And the most trickiest point is this one here, act, because act is not act. Act is action to improve, right? I didn't create the PDCA cycle just to let you know a guy by the name of Demon did that. And apparently, when they did not, like they wanted to make it sound catchy, so they just wanted plan, do, check, and act. You realize plan is a word, check is a word, do is a word. Act is the only one that has been shortened up a bit because act is really short for action to improve. I guess they didn't want to put that because it would not have made a good acronym. So they just went to plan, do, check, act, right? But if you research the Demon cycle, you will see what I tell her that act is not act at all. When class finished, right? If I want to think about what I tell her, act is not act. If act was acting, it would have been the same as doing. Hence, act is not acting. Act is really short for action to improve, right? So once you know this knowledge, you shouldn't get confused again. And what falls under is anything to do with lessons learned, reviewing any this, document, reviewing this, reviewing that, more or less by management, right? A lot of the times, this part of it is meant for management. And then put the MGT, right? So once you see things like management review, it falls under action to improve, right? Please note again, I am not Nibosh, and me saying the question would not come doesn't mean it would not come. It could come. Anything could come, right? I just say in terms of trend analysis, it's not an every month question, right? But it didn't come for the year, so it could come as a nice question for you. A nice, easy question. A lot of people like it. A lot of people feed this stuff into Google, you know, to get some answers. If you have like a second thought now, you could feed it into Google and see what you get. That's the beauty of an open book exam, right? Tell me when you finish, all of this is coming off now. I've covered it enough, right? So, anybody is still on it? Going once, going twice. It'll be on the record, of course, right? But go on. Because we have to move on, right? All right, so the next piece of this is what I was saying is that what you're looking at here is something called a management system. Management systems if you want to think of it in reality, because this is it in a diagram. That's how it looks like in a diagram, right? But in reality, they end up being folders. I'll show you one just now. They end up being folders, like your policy is put in a folder. The risk assessments are put in a folder. The GSAs are put in a folder. The results of measuring that you did, how much accidents you had, how much noise, dust, whatever, is put in a folder. How much management reviews you have is placed in a folder, right? So in reality, they look like this, right? Management systems end up being folders. In a way, why it's called a management system is that it helps you to organize yourself. That's why it's called a management system, right? So like, if somebody would ask, where is your health and safety policy? You have it, it's in a folder. Somebody asks, where's your risk assessments? You have it, it's in a folder. Where are your accident statistics? You have it, it's in a folder, right? Where's your management review meetings? It's in a folder, right? So in simple terms, what I'm trying to break it down for you is that, you remember, this course is not just about passing an exam. I want you to pass, but remember, you can't pass and not know anything. You have to be able to function, right? Again, just like you creating a policy for your company, you had to be able to manage that for the company as well, right? If you wonder, well, what does a safety person do? What do you do whole day for the rest of the day, right? So you work on these documents and like you get your risk assessments done, you follow them off, you have them, right? You get your audits done, you have them, right? You have them there for that purpose. And normally, let me just share something here for greater learning then, right? So in terms of management systems, you have about 3 common management systems in this part of the world, right? We come into the last one just now. The last one is the only one, actually no, these 2 for example, right? So one of the common ones is the one you're looking at here, right? This is called, well, the PDCA cycle. You have some other names there. I don't put them in there, but we'll just put PDCA, right? So the PDCA cycle, PDCA, that's supposed to be a P, right? The PDCA cycle is a common management system, but if it's common, right? How come you all never heard about it? The answer is that this is common to the UK. PDCA is not very common in the Caribbean, right? But if you go England, if you're in that part of the world, PDCA it is. In fact, they don't even talk about ISO, but not much of them talk about ISO, right? In the UK then, right? England, this cycle is the most common management system they have, right? Now, for the rest of the world, Guyana represented here, Trinidad represented here, we more know the management systems from ISO, which is why today's class is going to end with that topic, right? The ISO management system. Please mark it better than that, right? ISO, the number is 45,001. The most common management system in safety today is ISO 45,001. Marker froze. Put in the zeros for me, 001, right? ISO 45,001 is the most common safety management system worldwide, including England, but they like their own thing. Kind of like the Americans and the British, right? Like, right? So if you're in England, you probably more come across Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, PDCA. Around the world, Trinidad, Guyana, you come across ISO, right? Now, for those of us in Trinidad here, there's another one. And I wanted to mention it because not Guyana, right? This is for those of us in Trinidad, right? For those of us who are here, there's another famous one. And if you don't know it, you should know it, as they say, because that is what you'll have to be working with. In other words, then that is like our ISO. Trinidad and Tobago, if you don't know, right, we have our own management system for safety. I don't know if you know that. I'll say it again. Trinidad and Tobago, we have our own management system for safety. Anybody knows the name of it? It's 4 letters.
Sto.
So if you're here today and you don't know what this is, I'm gonna tell you what it is now. But know that when you get through to work for a company, you're gonna have to be helping them do STO. Right? What is STO? STO is a management system. It's the same thing, the same plan, do, check, act. All of them is the same thing. Right? If you're very new, limited, so STO stands for safe to work. So other than teaching you all and teaching other classes, this is what I do for a living as well. I do consultancy, right? And of course, consultancy in Trinidad and Guyana. But Guyana more training anyway. But in Trinidad and Tobago, don't know what's going with the marker. All right. So STO stands for safe to work. Yeah, the TO just stands for TO. I didn't make it up. I just tell it earlier, right? So safe to work. TO stands for TO, right? Two. Safe to work management system is something we have in Trinidad. And if you're in Guyana and you're coming across the work here, how to describe this? I'm trying to see how to describe this. I mean, the simple way to say it is that this is a must in Trinidad and Tobago, right? All contractors, all, companies that work in the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago, they require them to be STO, what we call STO certified, meaning you have a certificate saying that you're...
Question.
Yes, Ishwa?
Is STO and STCW same, or is there a difference between the STCW and the STO?
Definitely different. STO is just local to the energy chamber. The energy chamber is like a government, but not government, kind of government, but more or less voluntary body in Trinidad and Tobago. But what has happened? What has happened, right? STO has become a national best practice, right? So if you, like when you finish NEBOSH and you apply to work in a company, what you'll be doing for them is helping them maintain their STO. If you understand what I mean by that, right? Okay. So once you're working on a risk assessment, remember risk assessment was part of a management system. So when you're updating the risk assessments, you're actually helping them do STO. When you making up a policy, you're actually helping them do STO, right? All management systems are the same. You see, it didn't matter if it was PDCA, ISO, or STO, they all look alike. They call them a family. They're like a family then, family members resemble. You have the same nose. Somebody can look at you and look at your family member and say, well, that's your family member, right? Because you look alike now. So in England, they will call it PDCA, and the first thing you work on is the policy. Around the world, Guyana, Trinidad, we call it ISO 45001, and the first thing you work on is your policy. Trinidad and Tobago, we call it STO. The first thing we work on is still the policy. All of them is the same thing, right? Think you're okay with that? Now, a lot of companies locally to Trinidad, when you apply for a safety job and you read what they want, you'll see they want you to assist them with STO, right? Anyway, long and short is that that's what I do. I get into the companies, I prepare all these documents. Well, me and the team here, well, you don't see the team every Saturday. And we get the companies STO certified, right? So currently I'm doing a couple of them. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, reason why I asked, right, is because I am STCW certified, right? And that is why I was asking if STO and STCW was similar in nature.
As far as I know, no. I tried to take a breather here with this thing, right? As far as I know, no. STO is more similar to what you're looking at here, right? Like the first thing in STO then is a policy. Everything you find in PDCA, you find in STO, right? What you all should know as locals is that STO was actually brought here to Trinidad by somebody from the UK. In other words, and it's just like PDCA, just we call it STO here in Trinidad, right? The energy chamber, those of us in Trinidad and Tobago, was trying to get it across to Guyana for my friends in Guyana, but the Guyanese did not take it, and I'm glad they didn't take it. They should not take it. I hope they never take it. They should just take ISO, right? And the reason for saying that, remember, STO is local, so why would you take something local when you can just take ISO? You understand? So I know the energy chamber, as far as I know, the Guyana, energy sector didn't really accept STO. And they shouldn't, to be honest with you, right? They like STO should not have even been so popular in Trinidad and Tobago, right? ISO should be more popular here than STO. In other words, then, once you put your foot on a plane, an airplane, or on a boat, and you leave Trinidad, STO is not acceptable anywhere else. The STO certificate that the companies have to get for, it would have been better that they get ISO. But like I said, I didn't create, how does that song go? We didn't start the fire, we just kept it going. So I didn't start the fire, but like you find in Trinidad, all companies now, all industrial companies have to be STO certified. So I get lots of work with that. I get lots of consultancy work with that. But if I had, my way, I would have probably preferred Trinidad be more ISO certified rather than STO certified. But I didn't start the fire. I just assist the companies in getting these STO certificates. Anyway, I hope you understand it a bit. That's the environment that we live here in Trinidad and Tobago, that STO is like KFC on the island and it's very popular, right? It's the most popular management system here. Whereas I always thought ISO should have been the one that Trinidad would have gone for. But it is what it is. I didn't create it. I tell you, the energy chamber did. And we just, sort of facilitated companies doing that anyway. I said it to you all too because I wanted you to know where you're working now. Like when you finish your NEBOSH and you apply and you see this thing marked STO, don't be afraid of it. It's the same thing. Can you update a policy? Yes. Can you update risk assessments? Yes. Can you do measurements? Can you check the number of accidents? Yes, it's the same thing. So just call it STO. So it's nothing hard to do, but it is kind of expensive for the company to get. Right? The companies, there's some fees. I don't know if anybody, you want me to go through that or just leave it out? It's very expensive. It's expensive. You should probably know that too. It's expensive. The fees the companies pay to the energy chamber is over 20,000. Over 20,000 TT. Right? So it's not a cheap thing the companies have to get. So the question is, why is it so popular still? And the answer is what I said, it's a national best practice. It's like you want to do away with it, but you can't do away with it. Now, this government, the government that came in, they said they have some plans to revamp it. I am kind of looking forward to that because I find it too expensive. Like, I don't know anybody know the environment we work in Trinidad. Anybody understand where I'm coming from with this? Do you know that a small contractor then, in order to get a grass cutting contract with some of the companies in Trinidad, have to get STO certified? Do you know that, because I've done big companies and small companies. Do you know that a garment factory, I'm doing one now, with 10 workers, 15 workers, to be able to sell coveralls to some of these industries, they have to be STO certified. Now, I don't mind the STO certified part because remember, it means the documents are being ordered. But there is no distinction as to what is a small company to what is a big company. The fees are the same, payable to the energy chamber. The only fees that is different is my fees. I will charge based on the size of the company. What do I charge for? We charge for this. We charge for preparing the company. You all understand this, folks? We charge for preparing the company, for doing up the risk assessments. And if it's a small company, we charge a smaller amount. Not a small amount, a smaller amount. Right? And then they would get through with their set fees. But at the moment, this is a bit of a monster. So that's why I mention it. is like a monster in terms of safety, right? Whereas ISO is not so expensive, right? ISO would have been much cheaper, but it is what it is. And like I said, as a safety, like a lot of my students go into business with this. A lot of my students haven't achieved the NEBOSH. They market themselves then as consultants to assist a company to become STOO certified. All of them, their prices are more expensive than me. And that's okay because that's probably what they do for a living or they want to do for a living, right? I do it in addition to the education and arm of the schooling, right? And so we don't really charge that much, but we still charge. It's still, the thing is still like an industry price standard. You can't charge kind of lesser than the going rate, right? That's, you know, kind of underhanded business anyway. So we still charge what most companies charge, just probably a little bit less. Just like the NEBOSH course, you know, NEBOSH here is more expensive anywhere else. This NEBOSH that you're all doing is more expensive than if you do it in Guyana. This is more expensive. The one that if you do NEBOSH in England is more expensive than me. I go a little bit cheaper, and that's because I could, right? Some people say, you know, why? But that has always been me. I'm not cheap, but I'm cheaper. You all know that, right? NEBOSH right in Trinidad is $9,000. NEBOSH in Guyana is 9,000 TT dollars. We're not cheap. 7,500 is not cheap, but we're a little bit cheaper than the competitors, right? And that has always been the way. It never changed. 15 years ago, we were always cheaper than everybody else, right? That's just how my way is now. We're not cheap, but we're still cheaper than what it is. And the same thing here we do for STOO as well too, right? Anyway, hopefully some of you all understood this. Maybe in years to come, you all would, you know, I hear about my students all the time. This week I was talking to a student and they said, another student of mine was actually doing the same thing, STOO consultancy. And a lot of people make a good living in it because you could charge a decent price. You could probably message me offhand to say what is a decent price. But this is what you get paid for then in Trinidad, updating risk assessments, you know, JSA's policies, etc. This is how we do it. And all of that is collapsed into a system that we call STOO, that the rest of the world will call ISO, right? Could I take it off? Anybody have any comments, questions? I try to relate it here to a local context because next thing I didn't, and then you all go out there looking for ISO and then you're not seeing ISO in Trinidad. It doesn't have too much. STOO is more popular in Trinidad than ISO, but the rest of the world, ISO is more popular than STOO, right? Tell me if you have any questions, you'll give me a chance to catch my breath a bit. And if not, we just have these slides to finish. And today's class is finished. Anybody working? I know Ambika works in a company, so she may be familiar with STOO. Let me see, I don't know too much of you all. Carol Valdez may have heard about STOO before. By the way, there's a website for it. In case class finish and you want to check it up a bit, you could just put STOO in Google and you'll end up with the Energy Chamber website. The 3 people working there are associated with me in some way. It only have 3 people working there, by the way. Anybody knows where the Energy Chamber is located? Those of us in Trinidad, where is the Energy Chamber located? If you're in Trinidad and you work in safety, you have to know these things. Where is the Energy Chamber located? Make a guess. North, south, east, west, central. Nobody in class knows the Energy Chamber.
South?
Say it again, sorry.
South?
South, what part exactly do I mean there's a place we know. Those of us in Trinidad are supposed to know this. You already young then. Point Lisas, yeah, Point Lisas, Atlantic Plaza. You all know what Atlantic Plaza is? If not, write it down. Those of us in Trinidad, Atlantic Plaza is the upstairs, is the head office of the Energy Chamber.
Yes, sir. I know which part it is.
Oh, very good, very good. If anybody would have done your plea card, those of us in Trinidad again, your plea card would have been done at the Energy Chamber, but downstairs, you'd have used downstairs to the back of the building there, right? The 2 persons I tell you working there, 3, but the head is also somebody that knows me very well. The head is the head of the energy chamber. His name is Dr. Dax. You could pull him up on Google and see him. He's not from here, he's from the UK. But the other two workers of his are past students of mine. So you never know where you could end up. His two workers are two past students of mine. You can check them up. If you just go on the Energy Chamber website, you'll see their name, Ayana and Kina. Both NEBOSH holders, by the way. Good for NEBOSH, isn't it? That they would hear something like that, right? But Dr. Dax, the head of the Energy Chamber, Dr. Dax is not from here. He's actually from the UK, right? Anyway, you should write those names down. There's no need that you're in safety and you don't know the biggest health and safety thing on the island here in Trinidad, right? The biggest thing here is actually not OSHA, it's actually the Energy Chamber. They are the ones that drive this tool management system, right? I think recently, but I don't think Ayana and Kina are going anyway. I'm pretty much happy there. I think recently they were trying to hire somebody else, right? But I don't know where that went to. I know the guy had contacted me, but I don't think he got through, right? He didn't have something in safety and he wanted him to have it. Anyway, let's get back on track. So that was a bit of the local context there. I hope you all understood it. However, if you didn't, you could check up the website. And when you do get a work in Trinidad, know that you'll have to be in some way connected to the Energy Chamber, right? All right, so we can continue with ISO, just about 4 slides to go. So for the rest of the world, and you all heard my wishes, I had wished ISO was popular on the island, but it's not too popular, right? So ISO is internationally recognized, it's coherent, it's aligned and fully integrated with the other ISO standards that are available out there, such as the one for environment, which is ISO 14001, and the management system for quality, which is 9001. If you don't understand what that means, if you don't understand what it means by coherent and fully aligned, I said it before, what it means is that they all look alike, right? So like, if you wanted to get ISO certified, the first thing you work on is your, well, if you wanted to get ISO 45001 certified, right? The first thing you work on, I'm going to show you this one here, is your HSE policy. I really battling the cough now, right? The cough just, and it had stopped for a bit. Yeah, so if you're trying to get ISO 45001 certified, you want to work on your HSE policy, like what we just said. Like safety is my first priority. And if you wanted to get ISO 14001 certified, the first thing you work on is on your environmental policy. So that's what I mean by they all look alike. Like you all start off with policy there, the environmental policy. If you wanted to get 9001 certified, then you start off with your quality policy, right? You start off with your quality policy, right? So all of them look alike in that they have that same resemblance to them. They all start with policy and they all end with continual improvement, right? That's what they mean by it's fully aligned. So if but no, I have to take that back. Some years ago, I mean, you all know I'm in this business long, right? So not too long ago, it really didn't have an ISO 45001 in it. That's the slide I had before. ISO was known as something else. Watch it here, right? Remember I told you ISO was known as something else. Watch it here, OSAS. But did I have to go forward? Let me go forward, right? ISO was actually known as OSAS 18001, right? So what a lot of companies did back in the day, dinosaur years, right? What they did, they sort of did all in one. Like when they created a policy, they created all in one. They say, we are committed to your health, safety, environment, quality, and they created one policy, right? So that's what they mean by fully integrated. Like a company that was ISO 9001 certified, which is quality, could have snuck in then safety inside it. They could have said, we at Proman, we at Metanex, so we at Desalcott, right? We are 9,135, but they could have said, we are committed to your quality and to your health and safety one time, right? Today, though, 2025, you realize it have one for safety, which is 45,001. But back in the day, I was telling you, a lot of companies had put in a line in safety then, even if it was quality you was doing, right? A lot of companies would have put a line there for safety too, but it was quality they was going to be certified under. Now, since about 2015, I don't know if you know this, but I'll probably tell you, do you know it was one of the heads of NIBOSH that worked on this? We knew when she was doing it, right? Her name could be on one of my certificates on the wall here, right? I'll say that again. One of the heads of NIBOSH actually worked on this management system to get it to where it is today from OSAS, from OSAS 18,001 then to ISO 40 to 45,001. She worked on that, one of the heads of NIBOSH. And when she got it through, she left NIBOSH and went to work for ISO. Right? So small world anyway, in terms of NIBOSH and ISO, right? Let me kind of take this off here. I'm going to take off this set of circles I have there, right? So I was telling you, want to blow this up. Let me bring it on a bigger view for you all. This is what the ISO 45,001 looks like. I'm going to bring it up on a bigger view for you, right? And if you look at it carefully, let's try to look at some pieces of it. You understand it still follows the principle of plan. If you look under plan, you'll see policy. Watch it here. Right? You look under do, you're still going to see things. You're still going to see things like things that can be done then, right? You look under check, you're still going to see things like monitoring and measuring. You look at acting, you're still going to see things like continual improvement. All right? Okay, let's take a look at them, right? So, context of the organization. There's so much to say on this, right? Like, kind of before ISO 45,001, not a lot of emphasis was placed on the context of your organization. I don't have all the space in the world to tell you this one. I mean, space is only one view we're looking at, right? But remember what I just told you about store, that big companies, small companies all have to pay the same price, but not ISO, right? They take the context of your organization into consideration. If we were to do a comparison, and which we're not doing, I'm just telling you, right? Like the same standard they want for Atlantic LNG. A grass cutting company have to use the same standard in Trinidad and Tobago. But not ISO. ISO considers what your company is doing and works to suit, right? So I do think the present tool system needs to be amended. The energy chamber need to stop making so much money from one company. How much money? I tell you, more than $20,000, right? They could make it, but why they have to make it from a small company that have 5 people employed? This week, right? Well, I have some jobs out there, right? Same store. But this week, a guy was telling me, when I explained it to him, he said, well, is it that he or his wife will have to do it? And then it kind of dawned on me, well, it's just like a couple of people in that company. But are they paying a different price? No, they're paying the same 20-something thousand to the energy chamber, right? So locally, you find that there is no consideration then to the context of the organization. But globally, if you follow the ISO standard, there is context of your organization. The only problem is ISO not popular here on the island. For those companies to go to Paria, for those companies to go to Atlantic, for that company to get a ProMan, they have to have this store certificate. You understand that a bit, folks? You understand where I'm getting at? It's like they have them under the gun there. You understand that description? for your grass cutting company to get to cut grass in Para, you have to be stool certified. Right? So they have them under the gun. Now, again, like I said, I didn't start the fire, but that's where I get work as well. And maybe you could get work there as well too, when I say to assist companies. But it's a bit unfair because remember, it's one system, it's one standard throughout. Trinidad system, Trinidad standard is throughout, right? All right, folks, I want to try to tie this lesson up now, right? Enough local context, right? So here's what they will ask you. What comes for this exam is this. It's on the slide. That's why I didn't really push too much emphasis on it, right? What they ask you is what is the benefit? What are the benefits of your company having a safety management system? Please remember what they have in mind here is not STOA. What they have in mind here is ISO, right? So it's ISO they're talking about, or PDCA, right? So what's the benefit, right? Now, when I say what's the benefit, you need to understand what I was telling you, because remember, there is money to pay to ISO too, right? But what's the benefit, right? ISO is probably half the price of STOA and probably less than that too, right? But what's the benefit, right? What's the benefit? I don't know if you understand what this chart meant. Do you know that this chart meant what I was trying to show you before? What does this chart mean, right? This chart means, I'll put it away. What I was going to show you, remember I showed you something before? I'll show you the next one. That chart represents this. This is a different one. That chart represents folders. Everything you see in here is a document that have to go in a folder. Watch it, your health and safety policy. Watch it, the organization rules and responsibilities, right? Your resources, your budget up to last night, 10 o'clock last night, I was working on a document. The same thing for companies, right? Competence, your training, each of these things have to go through and have to get done for you to get these certificates then, the ISO or the STO or the PDCA, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's going to cost your company something. It's going to cost them money, time, and effort. It's going to cost money, time, and effort, right? So why bother? Why bother go through STO? Why bother go through ISO? It's so much of documentation. This chart doesn't do it justice. What did it justice was the folder, the first folder I pick up and I'll show you just now. It's lots of documents. Lots is lots. How much is lots? Probably more than 130 something documents. That's putting it mildly. That's putting it mildly, right? It's more than 133 documents, right? So why bother take all that stress? Why bother? I'm talking on behalf of the companies then. Why bother be ISO certified? And the answer is this. So this is what NIBO should ask you. So what's the benefit? The benefit is that once you get this certificate now, you have increased access to contracts and tendering processes. You didn't get the job yet, huh? You're just tendering. 2011, a long time ago. 2011, I did consultancy for a company. I got them STOA certified and they didn't win a contract. They ended up going out of business. Right? I'll say that again. 2011. And up to yesterday, I saw a guy. Up to yesterday, I saw a general manager. I stood down and I, honk him horn. It happens like having this certificate then doesn't mean you're going to win a tender. Remember, tendering is a bid. You're bidding then. You bidding, right? So you bid. I'm just making this up. Remember, we do this in big and small companies, right? You bid $250,000, you bid $500,000, you bid $1 million. Yes, TT. But your competitor bids lower. But having the certificate, that's like a benefit is that you get access to the tendering process. Doesn't mean that you win the tender. If you win the tender, you make back your money. What do you all think about this whole process, though? That's how it is in Trinidad. That's how it is in Trinidad, though. Right? Yesterday, I tell you, I was coming up. For those of us in South, right, where Nick's bar is there, a very popular bar. Well, it's kind of like a food outlet too, right? I saw the general manager for another company that worked for Metal when Metal was here. I did store for them too, and he got the certificate. And he was working for Metal, so he was making good money. But at the same time, as a subcontractor now, right? Metal closed down, you know? So we always talk about that. His name is Ryan, but I mean, that's not my fault. Yeah, I meant to do a job and I did the job. We got the store certificate, but Metal closed down afterwards, right? Benefits of a formal management system: increased reputation as a safer company, right? Increased reputation as a safer company. Right? Better organization of health and safety from policy formulation to management review. Positive driver for safety culture with fewer accidents and better hazard awareness. So why are these things a benefit? You see, if you organize, these things would just be a natural flow then. If you organize, then you should have less accidents. So then it's a benefit. I don't know if you all understand the whole process, right? If you organize yourself and your documents and training, you'll have reduced work-related injuries, ill health, and death. You get to develop your health and safety policy. Look at here, right? Better organization of health and safety from policy formulation to management review. Positive driver for safety culture with fewer accidents and better hazard awareness. Demonstrate the leadership and commitment with regards to occupational health and safety management system. Reduces occupational health and safety risk. And of course, if you have all of these things, as a benefit, you may have less accidents, then less insurance premiums to pay. Right? That's where the lesson ends. The lesson ends right here in terms of benefits. Right now, we could just reflect on a past paper here. I wanted to show you something again, why I told you to print out this for, right? Just the core. Let me just take a couple of deep breaths and I'll get back to you with this. We finish. I just want to reflect on a past paper. Give me just about 30 seconds and I'll be back with you, all right? Right. Yeah, so for exam, if you want to kind of write this down, or you should write it down. This is a 10-mark question. They ask 10 benefits then of a company having a formal management system. In whichever way you think about it, STO or ISO is what's popular in this part of the world anyway, right? So what are the benefits? Now, what I wanted to show you, that this chart here is the benefits. I'll say that again. The chart that you're looking at is the benefit. What do I mean by that? I'll say it again. The chart is the benefit. Just like that. The chart is the benefit. What you have to do, right? If they ask you benefits, which is what they ask, that's the question, right? What you need to do, you need to turn these things into your answers. Watch this one. We already did one already. We did more than one already. You say a company that is ISO certified is going to have a formally developed health and safety policy. That's a benefit. And what I show you for one applies to all of these here. All of these are benefits. What just one? We did this one. A company that's ISO certified will have into consideration, they will take into consideration the context of the organization. So that's the benefit. Some of them more apparent, like this one. What this one? Support. A company that's ISO certified is going to have greater support for the rest of the workers in the company. See if it's making any sense now. Watch this one down here. A company that's ISO certified is going to have greater management of contractors. You understand? The chart is the benefit. As I tell you, blow up the chart and print the chart. Maybe this one will be easier for you. Watch this one. I can do every one, but I'm doing some, right? a company that's ISO certified is going to have a greater emphasis on emergency preparation and response. If you wonder why, because they would have had to do the document and put it in a folder. Once you put it in a folder, you have to train the workers now in terms of following the emergency procedures. So a company that, you see, these things, do you all understand the end of this? The end of this, when I mean the end, let me see what I mean by the end. When all your folders have been completed, when all your documents have been set, right? If you wonder, well, why did I talk about where the energy chamber is at? Was I just trying to let you know where they were at? The answer is no. That is where you have to apply for the audit. That's where you have to go to apply for the audit. And the energy chamber will send an auditor to look at your folders. That's why it's a difficult process, right? So they're going to come to your company and they're going to look at contractor management. And if you satisfy all of these, which you never really often do, but they give you a chance to fix it, then you get the ISO/STO certificate. Did you all understand the process? It includes lots of documents, lots of money, auditors come in, check in your documents. Once you meet it and satisfy it to a high degree, the company will be granted one of those certificates. Tell me if you understand it a bit. The lesson is finished, and the lesson was finished when we looked at the benefits of a management system. I'll probably move to finish the class because of the fight with the cough, right? Plus also, we are really finished, right? The most I would have liked to do is to show you our past paper, right? But we could pick it up next week. We already said what the question is. The question is the benefit. So there's no need for me to say it over and over, right? The question is, what is the benefits of a formal management system? And the benefits, you can get them from the diagram itself. Every word here is a benefit. Let me see what I have in the view screen. As I had other classes before you all. I had a past paper up this morning. But it looks as if I took it down, right? Because it's not in the view screen anymore. But let me see if I can just show you one, right? We're not going to do it now, but we would have to do it. I'll prefer that we do it in one of the classes. Give me a minute, right? So September. The first I remember that question came was around 2021 though. But it came after that too, right? It came after that too. Let me see here. I'll share it with you. We have 5 minutes again. Just look at it for now. Don't get too worried. Everything in time, right? So this is tell me if you can see a passive in the background there. This is the same passive we did last week, in fact, right? March 2025. Can you all see it in the background? It's a passive showed in your background with a scenario. The word scenario is there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good, right? Okay. Just watch it with me. I'll call the roll just now, right? So just remember what I said. ISO and stuff is not on every paper, but it was on this one. How I know that? Because I did a question from this for today already now. I did a question here already. I think last week we looked at one of these here. Right? Right, so what just here, watch. Understanding the arrangement in ISO 45001, plan, do, check, act, cycle, right? ISO 45001, indicate which one of these elements of the following arrangement extract from the scenario belongs to active monitoring, implementing the BSP, the Behavioral Safety Program. You know what I think they wanted to do? I think they just wanted to match it up to Plan, Do, Check, Act, which is what we said in the first part of the class. Yeah, that's what they wanted to do, folks. So look at it, I didn't steer you wrong. Remember when I stopped and I showed you the first PDCA? That's what they wanted to do here. Right? So even though it's ISO, this one didn't test benefits. But there are those participants that test benefits, right? You wanna have a go at one of them? We have 4 minutes again. Some of them easy, right? Where would occupation and health and safety objectives fall? Does it fall under Plan, Do, Check, or Act? Where does that fall, the objectives? While you're thinking about it, I'll get the rule organized so we could mark the rule in the meantime.
Plan.
Yeah, very good plan. Yes, very good plan. You know, I had a rule before when the coordinator. Take a look at the next one. And truth. Okay, good. I have the rest. All right. What's the next one? Hazard identification. What does that fall?
In do, because do
Very good.
falls under.
Yes, yes, it falls under do. Yeah, correct. Right. Like I said, the best news is, folks, you could use your intuition for this. You could just ask Google, right? Let me see if I could help you out with this one. Control of documents, documented information, careful version control. That actually falls under doing too, right? It falls under organizing, which falls under doing. This is doing, this is doing. This one is planning. Active monitoring, you could just guess this one. Is what a PDC. What do you think that falls under? Monitoring. Monitoring. What does that sound like? PDC or A? Active monitoring. You're thinking, but you don't want to say it. I'll give you a clue. It's not planning.
Is it act? Act?
Okay.
Anybody else? Good answer though, but
Check.
check. It falls under checking. Right? So see what I tell you, I didn't stay all wrong. And I think I was doing a pass paper for myself. You know, I didn't even know this was the question. Remember, I tell you I did a question from this study, but it wasn't this. This is the first time I doing this question. The one I told you I did was 2021. This is 2025. This paper was March 2025. Right? Point proven, right? Is NIBOSH hard? NIBOSH is not hard. Right? Managing incident accidents, accident investigation to identify the root cause. That's also checking emergency response, first aid by a store first aider. Emergency response.
Would that fall under do?
I feel that's doing, yeah. I was heading to do, right? So folks, NIBOSH is not harder, but you know, anybody want to take a pity of that? I'll leave it up there for a bit. I actually, like I said, if I had realized was this question, I would have stopped and do this long time. I would have did this when I did PDCA. But when I saw the heading today, I thought it was an ISO question. It is an ISO question, but they didn't ask the benefits. In fact, is it really an ISO question? Because they more or less asked PDCA. They didn't really ask ISO.
For anyone who's going on to do the lead auditor for 45,000, this actually is one of the type of questions you get.
Yeah, yeah. You have a couple of places that do 45,001 CIQ in Chaguanas, and I have one of my lecturers that do it. He's very good, right? He's cheaper than CIQ. When that time comes for you, if anybody want to do it, you let me know. Everybody knows him too. He's well known in the safety world. Everybody know him. If you're not in safety, you wouldn't know him. He's a past student, past lecturer of mine, right? But he has his own company now, and he has the rights to do ISO certification. He does it in Guyana too, right? He's cheaper than CIQ is in Chaguanas. It'd be a bit expensive, over 10,000. and stuff to get these things done, right? This lecturer will get it done. It's the same accrediting body and stuff, right? But he will do it a bit cheaper for you all anyway, right? If anybody wants to get it done, right? Folks, I have to stop. I am happy we got to do a past paper. Well, two, because I made up one reflecting on 2021, and we got this one done here today again today, right? Normally these things don't happen, but you all are going good. I mean, I don't know if you understand that. Remember, at the end of the day, you don't have me to please, and you have Nibosh to please. At the end of the day, just remember that you don't have me to impress enough, right? You have an exam to face at the end of the day, and I want it to pass. So that's why I always try to tie in a pass it for coughing or not, headache or not. We try to do what we have to do, right? Once you hear your name and you say present, you can leave, right? Again, thanks for being here. It's 4:00 in the dot. I actually haven't had lunch or nothing as yet for today. Just to let you know how Saturdays are like, but that is kind of normal for me, so don't feel anyway. I normally have something to eat about 4:30, right? Ambika Bernard,
Present, sir.
thanks very much. Do you do the rest of your evening, the voice, you know. Devon Burrows.
Present.
Thanks, Devon. Sadronessa Ben is here. Justin Maraj.
Present, sure.
Yes, thanks, Sadronessa. Right, Justin Maraj. After Justin is Janelle Jack, and I know she's here. Yeah. Ryan Moore. Videsh is next on the list after Ryan. Okay, thanks very much, Videsh. Andre Wells. Ryan Moore is here. Okay, good, yeah. Yeah. Andre Wells.
Present.
Thanks, Andre. Emily Gopal. Carissa Joseph. Sangita. Okay, I'm seeing Sangita name. Chelsea Harilal.
Present.
Thanks, Chelsea. Brittany Ramdas.
No problem.
Thanks, Brittany. Wayne Ramnat.
Present, sir.
Thanks, Wayne. Brittany Modest.
Present, sir.
Thanks, Brittany. Vidal Joseph is here. Ishwar fell asleep, so I took him off. Cage.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Thanks to Ishwar, right? Carol Valdez.
Present, sir.
Thanks, Carol. Daryl, I didn't see him today. Daryl is often vibrant this hour of the day, right? Shivan is also here. Yeah. Shanika James. I know when Aliyah came in. Aliyah, are you still around? Rishon is here still. Mark Anthony is here. Well, Anthony Mark is here, right? Christine Rampasad is also here.
Present, sir.
Yeah. Anybody on the live didn't hear your name? Let me just check back. I have Anthony, I have Christine, I have Shanika. So I have you all, right? Folks, if you're still around, you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I'll see you all back next week Saturday for part 2 of chapter 4. Sorry, chapter 2, part 2 of chapter 2. Yeah. Well, the best, everyone. Bye.